This is Keep the Faith Ministry News. I'm Richard Barnett. I'll be filling in for Hal Mayer while he's on medical leave. Earlier this month, more than 30 oil and gas CEOs and investors captured headlines by meeting with Pope Francis in the Vatican on climate change, then releasing a statement supporting carbon pricing. What is clear from this high-profile event is that the climate crisis has become a societal imperative, an investor priority, and a top-tier business risk for the oil and gas industry. What's not clear is whether these leading oil companies will help bring about the low-carbon future they envisioned with Pope Francis by consistently advocating for essential public policies, including those that price and limit carbon emissions. Spiritual capitals like the Vatican can inspire vision and stoke resolve, but ultimately it is in the political capitals around the world where government leaders will make the decisions that determine whether the climate crisis is solved. The real test is whether companies' actions will match the rhetoric or lapse back into business as usual, exacerbating concerns of the financial community and deepening license to operate issues for oil and gas companies. During the meeting, participants agreed on the urgent need for a systematic transition to a low-carbon emissions future aimed at keeping global warming below 2 degrees centigrade. Reportedly, the oil and gas executives in the room also recognized that addressing the climate crisis requires radical changes at all levels, both personal and collective. If genuinely meant, this language is a welcome breath of fresh air from an industry known for its resistance to this level of change. The subsequent statement from oil companies and other participants includes an endorsement of carbon pricing regimes, whether tax, trade, or other market-based measures, and an acceptance that energy sector advocacy and engagement are essential to achieve government policy changes. This is an important statement because pricing carbon is the key way to create incentives, establish regulatory certainty, and help industry allocate capital for the lower carbon future that investors demand. One leading indicator of the seriousness of executive commitments will be how companies engage in the political debate on carbon pricing in the U.S., the world's most energy-intensive nation and one of its largest emitters. Today, business support for climate action is reigniting in Washington, D.C. While the oil companies that signed the Vatican statement are a fraction of the global industry, their leadership matters. Here's what it will take for the oil companies that signed the Vatican statement to make their commitment meaningful in practice. CEO-level attention and resources commensurate with a global problem that demands, in their own words, urgent action. Active and public support for science-based federal climate policy that includes carbon pricing. Transparency on how they, among the largest dues-paying members of the American Petroleum Institute, are using their clout to reverse API's long-standing opposition to pricing carbon. Political giving that rewards pro-climate lawmakers and candidates, not those who oppose and obstruct government action on climate change. Earnest efforts to bring along a wider swath of industry actors. The history of oil and gas engagement on carbon and other climate policies too often have been defined by obstruction, opposition, and hiding behind the lowest common denominator. But with the urging and support of motivated investors, leaders in industry can chart a different future. As the participants in the Vatican discussion agreed, radical change is needed, building on the positive steps taken by several companies in the industry. How companies lobby, engage with trade associations and peers, and politically spend will answer whether reality lives up to rhetoric. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies, and the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her. Revelations 18:3 and 9. This is Keep the Faith Ministry News. Thank you for watching.